Hey folks, Kevin here. Well, it's March 6, 2022, and today's video, the topic is choose the importance of choosing a dealership when you choose a piece of equipment. Certainly, it's very important to choose the piece of equipment to meet your needs. So certainly looking at your property, looking at your goals and objectives, and maybe watching lots of YouTube channels and seeing what other people are doing with their pieces of equipment, what their experiences have been as well, is certainly important. But the dealership has a multifunctional role with your relationship with a piece of equipment that you purchase. Even if you purchase your piece of equipment used from someone else or from another dealership, the dealership that you choose to deal with is very important. I've talked in videos in the past about how important it is to, let's say when you're choosing a lawyer or choosing your doctor, how important it is to spend the money, go sit down with them and interview them and make sure that it's a good match and that their knowledge base is adequate, that they have the adequate resources and so on and so forth. And I'm not going to go into that in this video. But certainly, when you're choosing a dealership, certainly there's the subjective component. So I go through, when I'm analyzing anything, I do SOAPing, and that's just using subjective information, objective information. Then I make an assessment and make my plan based on that assessment. So the subjective information may be reviews that you hear, or the quality of the equipment and their multifunctional abilities, or the diversity of supplies, the resources that they have. So there's lots of subjective information that's difficult to quantify. But then we want to use our objective information. Certainly, when you get on the phone and speak with them, or you call up and you test their parts department, or you call up and talk to their service manager, the accessibility, their knowledge base, their resources, and their timeliness in responding to you is important. So when you're choosing a dealership, just like when you're choosing a doctor, you want to have answers to questions that you're going to be asking before you ever approach them. You also want to know what comparable prices are. So like with choosing Kubota, it was real easy for me to go online, and I've already made a couple of videos on this, going through the online process of building the piece of equipment that you want, and you know what the manufacturer's suggested retail price is. And I think with the more prep work you do beforehand, the easier it will be for you to assess if the salesperson or the owner, depending on how big or small the place is, how much BS they're feeding you. And when I did my research with the Kubota, there were far too many red check marks saying, okay, the objective data here and even some of the subjective data indicated that the top four, when you do Kubota dealers near me on Google Maps, the top four that show up told me, go elsewhere. This isn't going to work. And that was how I was able to determine that, was by phone calls initially, and then going to the places and seeing what they have. And certainly the phone call, I was able to eliminate 3 of those dealerships just by the questions that I asked them. And it can be pretty daunting if you don't know the questions. Like if my wife were to try and decide to sell one of the pieces of equipment here, if something happened to me, she would probably be fairly lost and be dependent on someone else to help her out. And the less knowledge you have, the more the dependency you have on the dealership. And certainly Don, who responded to one of my questions, and he's located in Rome, New York, and I believe he has a 3560 Kubota cab series, very similar to ours, and he has a backhoe. And he's had, I'd say, enough issues to make him really question the honesty, the integrity, and the capabilities of the dealer. So when you're looking at a dealership, it's important first to go through the whole process and to see, you know, is there integrity? Do they have the honesty? Are they representing themselves correctly as well? And what is their knowledge base? What questions are they asking you? For example, I've mentioned before, one of the places that I've gotten manure from, Purpose Farm, a wonderful place. They aren't people who knew a lot about tractors, and when they went to the dealership, one of these Kubota dealerships, and they sent them a piece, they matched them up with a piece of equipment that could not meet their needs. Now certainly part of this responsibility is the ownership of the person who's going and seeking guidance. You need to know what your property's like. Like for instance, their property's on quite a bit of a slope. They have volunteers that may be using the piece of equipment as well. They have a lot of lawn that they don't want to get torn up. They're going to be doing lots of front-end loader work as well. So they never discuss ballasting, never loading the wheels. They sold them. This is their second tractor I'm talking about now. But the second tractor that they got from them, they had the R1 tires, and they never discussed how that would tear up the lawn. They have a front-end loader on it. They're picking up heavy material. They never emphasize the importance of having the roll bar, the ROPS, the roll-on, roll-over protection, the thing that goes up behind the seat of the person there. How important that was. No ballast in the back, no wheel weights, no loaded tires, any of those things, and they're on a slope piece of property. They didn't understand how the hydrostatic settings were set up on the tractor. Nobody went through those things with them. And that's part of the salesperson's job. Then there's the parts department. So when you need a part and all, yes, you need to know the model number, the serial number, that information and all, and you need to be able to accurately describe or take pictures and all. How good is their parts department at being able to identify what parts you actually need and all, and their accessibility to get those parts. In the past, I bought a Mahindra tractor, a 3510, and the tractor was a good tractor, but they didn't have a service department. They didn't have a parts department. It was all haphazard as far as how they approach things. When I would take pictures of what I needed, they still didn't know what it was, and so that seems to be a nationwide issue, because I had called all over the country with Mahindra trying to talk with the technicians with a problem I was having, and it was a pretty simple, straightforward problem with a plug that needed to be replaced, but a lot of them weren't aware that this plug existed because it was behind a plate on the tractor. So, you know, realizing the importance of the parts department and the service department. So, you know, when you're choosing a doctor, you want to know what their knowledge base is, what their skills are, how often they do the procedures or are familiar with your age group or the disease processes that you have. You want to know what their resources are. Are they using outsourced lab resources, which are really, really specific, or are they using in-house testing, which are much more sensitive to environment, temperature, and humidity and all? What about their staff? Do they have a really good staff that works with them very well to do whatever processes you need to have done? It's the same sort of thing when you're working with a dealership. You want to know that it's a full system, that they have an integrative approach where there's the resources available and the knowledge base there and the desire. So you need to have, do they have the knowledge? Do they have the skills? Do they have the resources? And do they have the integrity and the ambition to go ahead and meet your needs? So those are all things that I think are super important. And I don't want to make this video any longer than what it is. But there's so many times that I've found people that didn't get the right piece of equipment, or the piece of equipment that would meet their needs for attachments later on, or they weren't well educated about what the tractor can do or the piece of equipment can do, and they overexceeded the limitations of the piece of equipment. So a lot of this, the weight of this really bears on ourselves when we're going and finding these places and all. And that's where having a good social network, having people that you can rely on to help guide you through this process is really important. I'll be making a couple more videos, one about the different transmission types that I just sort of mentioned in the previous video. That's a really important thing to understand. Fuel economy, the proper RPMs that you need to be running the piece of equipment for hydraulic work versus loader work versus mowing work, those sorts of things, or snow blowing work. Those are all things that I think that potentially can not be covered when you're buying pieces of equipment. I'll also make a video suggesting a couple of YouTube channels that I think are really worthwhile watching for new tractor owners or new pieces of heavy equipment owners, that really they go through their whole process of what they've learned along the way. And I think they're really good channels as well. And one dealership that I think is very valuable that actually helped me to choose some of the implements that I have for the Grand L6060 as well. So let me know what you think, what your thoughts are regarding this, and because this is such an important topic, choosing your partnership, your relationships. It's like where you work, it's who you choose for your doctor, who you choose for an attorney, and you may have an attorney that helps you with one aspect of your life and an attorney that helps you with another aspect of your life. Same thing with clinicians. That's important as well, and certainly with your pieces of equipment that you're investing in as well. So with that, I think I'll end this video. I hope this is of value to you. If it is, please give us a thumbs up, share it with your friends, and by all means, folks, take good care of yourselves, and do due diligence when you're finding a new dealer to work with. Take care. Bye-bye now.